Hello and welcome to Curdcast, the podcast for people who like to eat cheese. I'm your host, Jen Mason, and with me today is my always wonderful, always fabulous, always willing to eat stinky cheese friend and co-host, Julie Faye-Fan-Balzer. Hello, Julie. How are you today?
Hello. This is a particularly fragrant box, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, it's a fun box. And we're mellowing things out with some sweetness. We're going to talk about that. So many fun things. For those of you who don't know, I'm going to pop this little thing on the bottom here. So what Julie and I are doing right now is eating a box of cheese. You can go to curdbox.com and get your own box of cheese and eat along with us every month. We actually make 2 boxes. We make curdboxFLEX, which is what we're talking about today, gluten-free, nut-free, meat-free. So our cheeses are all vegetarian, use vegetarian rennet. And we have our regular box, which is gluten-full, nut-full, and meat-full. Actually, it doesn't have those things all the time. It just, the curdboxFLEX will never have those allergens. And we're super excited because it means we can create one box that is still as fabulous. And Julie, you can back me up on this as we go to eat this. We sometimes have people write in and say, oh, I just don't want gluten, but I do want meat. And we're just like, just try the box. You will never feel like you're missing something when you have this box. We'll substitute something for nuts. We substitute something. It's just, it's a gourmet cheese and pairing tasting box, but you're not going to miss any of the things that it's out of.
So it too, right? Because it's the most flexible, meaning like it's still the same great like tastes and curation and all that stuff. It's just now it's flexible, meaning it can work for so many different people.
So many people. And so like for those people who have a family where one person can't eat nuts and one person can't have gluten and one person tries not, is trying to cut out meat and it's not just like for allergy reasons. I mean, some people, these are all things that some people are trying to just keep out of their diet. So anyway, that's what we're doing today. Our theme is sweet dreams, Julie, and I love a dessert cheese box. Now, I'm not opposed to having this for dinner. Our boxes are usually enough for dinner for 2 or snacks for 6 to 8, kind of depending on how hungry your guests are or your family is. But I especially love a dessert-themed cheese tray because we don't do dessert cheese very often in the US, but it's a popular thing.
I feel like every restaurant, not every restaurant, but a lot of restaurants nowadays have a cheese plate as a dessert option.
Yeah, I would say the fancier, I mean, obviously, TGI Fridays is not offering one up, but you're right. The more sort of European based kind of definitely do, and I love them, and I'm a big fan of them. And a lot of times in different European countries, like that's a normal thing just to have a couple slices of cheese at the end. I love it. And we're going to talk, I think, a little bit about these, like, what do you do after you've eaten everything in this box? Like, how can you think about cheese for dessert when you're hosting and like be a superstar hostess or host? So I think we should just jump in. Let's see, which cheese should we start with? Let's work our way up with intensity and start with the one that is all white. This is our goat's milk Gouda. I have mine cut into pretty little wedges. Gouda is a great one if you're cutting cheeses for a board because it doesn't like to break apart like a cheddar might. So we call this our gateway goat's milk cheese. If you do not like goat's milk cheese, it's quite possible what you don't really care for is a fresh chev. So this one is made by Beemster. It's made in Holland. It's 4 months old. It's very young. It's really like it kind of melts in your mouth as you eat it, unless you've taken it right out of the refrigerator, and then it won't. But it's got kind of a tangy, almost a lemoniness to it.
Very, very, very mild. Doesn't feel goaty.
A little salty. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if we get somebody in our store, because we also I own a couple stores here in the Boston area, and we have somebody who says they don't like goat cheese, but somebody else is like, but I want a goat cheese. This is the one. This is how we keep marriages together. Is a goat's milk Gouda. We have lots of tricks for keeping marriages together, but this is one of them. And yeah, so this is made by Beemster, and it's a farmer-owned Dutch cooperative. They are like really super. Beemster takes really good care of their animals. A lot of artisan farms that are out there making beautiful cheeses, and not just a commodity cheese. Actually, the cheese and how great it tastes is important to them, but like taking care of the animals is kind of the reason why they started these businesses too. Like I wanted to have animals, and I'm going to need some way to pay for them. But artisan cheeses, are a really good way to feel good about the food you're eating. So anyway, so that's our first cheese. And what I like about it is it's a little salty. Got a little bit of a tang to it, but it's kind of mellow. You can get an aged goat cheese Gouda as well out there. This is a young one. This is only 4 months old. The next one we're going to have, again, we've had this cheese company, Beehive Cheese. We're going to go for Teahive. We've had their cheddar in this box before. And what I love about this is that we're able to show you this. They have the same cheddar, and then they do something to each one to change it. And this one is rubbed with Earl Grey and bergamot teas. And you want to eat this rind. And it's really not a rind so much as they've rubbed tea on the outside of the cheese. And I just love this one.
It's so fragrant and tasty. And it has that tea flavor. And normally I am like very against anything that is like, could be described as flowery. That's food.
Mm-hmm.
Like I am not a fan of things that taste like rose or
either
anything like that, which
I
like
lavender. You're like, that's laundry soap.
Exactly. But this really is so tasty and fantastic and unusual and interesting, and it feels fresh. I really, really like it.
And it looks pretty on a plate too when you cut it up, because it's got a, I'll show people who are watching this on video. That's what the tea looks like rubbed on there. It's got a little tiny crunch. It's pretty, it's beautiful, but it's that same cheddar. So we've had a bunch of their different cheddars in this box. And one of the reasons is because we want something that's approachable, that works under our vegetarian cheeses. They use a vegetarian rennet. This is coming out of Utah. It's run by a couple of brother-in-laws, like attorneys general. And they sort of left the fast lane in 2005 looking for a sort of more simple way of life, and ended up on a farm and making this beautiful tea. So it's a black tea and an orange bergamot. I love this. Anytime I'm having brunch, I love this. This is so good with a cherry jam. And like with the sour cherry jam, it's good, but like with like a mellow, like just a soft cherry jam is too. I mean, I love cherry jams of all forms. I am cherry jam agnostic. I like them all, but this one is just beautiful. This one, I mean, it's Teahive, but it reminds me of like something elegant, like going to tea. So really,
it's definitely like the tea. I mean, you said it's a black tea. It tastes like an Earl Grey or something like that. Mm-hmm. Like it has that sort of flowery tea flavor that's so nice and delicate.
Yeah, and not like heavy like matcha or something. All right, so and this Teahive is 6 months old, so it's a little bit older, and you can kind of taste that in the texture of this, right? Than the Gouda. There are two different cheeses. You can feel a firmer sort of taste in the paste, and essentially paste on a cheese is everything that isn't a rind is the paste. So it's a firmer paste.
The older we get, the firmer we get.
I feel like humans and cheese are opposite in that way. But maybe if you sit out in the sun too much, you'll get.
I think I'm a melty cheese, and as I age, I just get softer. But who knows?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think my core ripens and I'm like an old softie.
There you go.
Okay, so our last of our three cheeses, and we're going to go into our pairings, which are so good, is one of my favorites. We've had it in the standard curd box before, so I was excited to put this in the lineup for curdboxFLEX. And this is Moody Blue by Roth Cheese. This is Roth Cheese is a company. It's a big company in Wisconsin. They make a lot of fantastic cheeses. This is smoked over fruit wood, so it doesn't have a smoky taste so much as it has like a bacony taste. You're getting sort of like, because bacon is usually smoked. So to me, it doesn't taste like a smoked cheese. It tastes more like bacon blue cheese. And
definitely tastes like bacon blue cheese. So
right.
good.
And it's a mild blue cheese too. It doesn't have that like really sharp, pungent saltiness
It
or
doesn't
like.
have that aftertaste that's almost ammonia-y that you get sometimes on like really serious blue cheese.
Mm-hmm.
This is definitely exactly like if I were eating a burger, I would be like, oh, you put bacon and blue cheese on here.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just missing the burger.
Yep.
So really fantastic. This is just a 4-month-old blue cheese, which is part of the reason why it's not too over the top on its pow. And I'm excited for people to try this both with the chocolate cookie and with the well, really, and with the chocolate. And I'm really excited for people to try this. And I hope people will write in and let us know if they weren't a blue fan, if we like can convert them into a blue fan once you pair it with chocolate and caramel sauce, because it just it's like it just becomes this like creamy saltiness when it's paired with the other stuff. So really, really like this, again, from Roth Cheese out of Wisconsin. And it's just and it's nice to add to something else. So like you could put a little bit of on a steak, if you took a steak right off a grill and just let it sort of melt into that, and that could be sort of a little bit of your seasoning. You can crumble it over vegetables. You could add it to a fondue that's mostly something else, and this would just add that. You wouldn't even know what it was, and that you'd be like, why is this fondue so good? So some ideas for that. All right, now is the time to start talking about pairings, and it's a really hard decision which one to start with, but I'm going to start with the biscuits. So these are English raspberry and dark chocolate gluten-free biscuits. They actually, they're so cute. They have a little like emboss on them. They do make these in a
smell like raspberry.
I know.
I can't believe it.
Yeah, they are. Oh, they just smell so good. It smells. I mean, it smells like a chocolate raspberry dessert of any kind. It's just, you're like, ooh, what am I going to have? These would probably be actually fantastic, broken up and used in like a crust on a tart or a cheesecake too.
I have a deep prejudice against gluten-free baked goods of any kinds. So
we'll give this a try.
yes.
And they make this in a gluten full as well. I've had them both this week. And they taste remarkably similar.
Wow. Would not know that this was gluten-free. So good.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm sorry I only put 2 on my plate. I wish I had emptied the bag.
Don't let the kiddo know about these, guys.
That's good.
But doesn't this feel like something? I'm just gonna have 2 of these and a tea for my afternoon snack.
Totally.
And I don't normally stop for something like that, but this would be one of those like, I had a busy day, a couple of these and that, and like getting through some of my emails would be very pleasurable. So these are made by the Fine Cheese Co. They're out of the UK. So these are an imported gluten-free cracker biscuit. They're a biscuit. They're a cookie. They're kind of like they're not quite a shortbread, but I love that the line is called Elegant and English because they do feel very elegant English. They come in some other flavors as well. But oh my goodness, the other thing this would be great with is like a little bit of mascarpone cheese and a little drizzle of like a raspberry, coulis raspberries. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. So we're starting to get to the place, because we haven't tried this with our blue cheese yet, but like I could see a beautiful dessert with just one piece of the little chocolate, 2 of these cookies, a little blue cheese, and just it could be absolutely lovely. Or even like a little ramekin with some raspberry jam or a raspberry sauce. Just so good. Anyway, I digress. All right. What I'd like us to walk into now is to walk into our goat's milk caramel. This is made by Fat Toad Farm.
I'm scared.
You're scared.
I'm scared because of caramel. I once had a bad goat milk experience, and I actually really love goat cheese, so now I'm scared of caramel. So
you won't be.
Okay.
To eat this. So this is made in sort of the old Mexican way of like dulce de leche, just like stirring it and 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 stirring it, cooking it really slowly. Here she goes, folks.
Ooh, it's so good. It doesn't taste goaty at all. It's totally not what you expected. Oh my gosh.
You would never know. And it's because it's like it's been like sweetened condensed milk version. Like all they've done is really elevated the sweetness in that. And like I would eat this by the spoonful. I pulled some out of the jars because like if I had the jar, I would just keep eating it.
Me too. I've got my little ramekin.
It's so good, you know. A little drizzle in anything you would put caramel sauce in. I mean, I struggle, like, is it a caramel? Is it a dulce de leche? I mean, they say it's a caramel, but it's made in sort of that dulce de leche, that sort of crystallizing.
It definitely has more of that like creaminess that I associate with the dulce de leche as opposed to the caramel.
Yeah, it's
so Jen.
Good. It's so good, right?
Good.
All right. Well, we have one more, and what I love about this pairing is that, okay, it is difficult, guys, to find a chocolate to share with you who can't have nuts or might not be able to have nuts, might not be able to have gluten in this box, because every single chocolate bar you find says, you know, is made in a facility with other things. So this guy, Pascha Chocolates, this is an Arabica coffee bean, and I don't care for coffee. I love this. This is what I wish coffee or a chocolate mocha or a coffee mocha, whatever it tasted like, because then I would have it. But and it's a 70% dark chocolate, but it feels more like a 60 or 55. It gets creamy really quickly. It's not just like
super bitter. Not super bitter. Yeah.
It is. It tastes like you're having chocolate covered, you know, cocoa nibs, but without any of that extra crunch. And it just really melts and coats your mouth. But it's not cloying like a milk chocolate might be. I'm not a big fan of milk chocolate with cheese because it's just sort of the milkiness. They sometimes they're like too similar. And a dark chocolate can cut that a little bit and help cut the richness of a cheese. So this is the founder, Simon Lester, used to work at Cadbury's, and he founded Pascha Chocolate. It's spelled Pascha. After his daughter was diagnosed with severe food allergies. So here's another thing, like there was a need for this, and this is beautiful. And sometimes you have like these chocolate bars where they're trying to make them out of this or that or without this or without that. And you're like, yeah, great. Well, you've made a chocolate bar that I don't want to eat. But this is so good.
It is so good. And it's interesting how it says right on the package, like vegan, 100% plant-based, full ingredient traceability. I mean, I also think it's interesting. The first ingredient in it is organic chocolate liquor.
Yeah, so I'm not well versed. I have a good friend who makes chocolate. She tries to explain this to me all the time, but it's sort of what they're pulling out of the fermented cocoa beans. The chocolate from here comes from Peru. They try to get it past the sort of raw ingredients into the made ingredients there, so that nothing can happen to it. It can't develop any toxins coming from one place to another. And it's made into chocolate like within a few weeks. Yeah, it's just so fun. And it's funny because we had a brunch box already, but this feels very much like a brunch box. Or maybe this is like our tea box, our high tea box, kind of, you know.
I feel like maybe that was our like salty brunch box, and this is our sweet brunch box.
There you go. So good. So good. Or, you know, dessert. It's dessert of, maybe we could have the brunch box and then we could have the dessert of the brunch box. So it's time to mix things together. And I'm most excited to hear what you think about the blue cheese mixed with some of our pairings, because that will be the thing that most people, if there's something in here that somebody would normally not care for, it's usually not the chocolate. It would be the blue cheese. So
okay, I'm going to go biscuit, blue cheese, and I'm even going to throw some caramel on there to go all the way.
Smart.
I don't know if this is going to be a disaster, but if you're going to do it, you might as well do it. It's the sweet and salty thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's delicious. This
And you can
reminds me
have
of
a little sip of coffee by eating chocolate.
the first time you ever sprinkled sugar onto cheese and torched it in front of me, and I was like, "What are you doing, psycho?" And it was delicious.
Very good. And really all the cheeses, the lovely I mean, you can dip all these cheeses in this caramel sauce. There's nothing wrong with this.
I was gonna say, gotta drop, the Gouda straight into the caramel. And it actually looks like almost like a chocolate kind of delicacy that you would see, like a white chocolate covered in caramel.
It's very good.
That sugary, I have to say, I'm not usually a fan of caramel either. Wow. And like this caramel is just so good. It's like everything
deep.
Summer that I want it to be.
Yeah. It's a deeper, it's a more, I want to say intense, because I don't want people to think it tastes funny, but it's just, it's got a more complicated flavor. It's not like one note. Let's just say that. It's a multi-note caramel.
So creamy. And so often I think of caramel as kind of cloyingly sweet.
And
this is just so lovely and creamy. And again, like you said, that dulce de leche thing, like it makes me feel like warm and happy, and like think it's like summer ice cream parlors.
Oh, right. Oh, this would be so good with that. And and cheddar's a really interesting thing too, is that we think about cheddar as being a fairly savory thing, right? We'd put it on a burger, but it's also it's sometimes traditionally served with apple pie or with apples or caramel applesauce. So it's a fun thing there as well. We have out there in the world Thai iced tea, which is like a sweetened condensed milk with tea. So we've got flavors around that are sort of suggestive of this kind of pairing as well.
I just put the Teahive on a piece of chocolate. And of course.
Oh yeah. Chocolate. So good. Yeah, it's a fascinating box. So before we go, I just want to give some pointers. So think about, enjoy this box. And if you, I'm flinging my blue cheese all over. If you aren't lucky enough to have this box, first of all, you should know that the Flex box, unlike our regular box, our regular curd box, it's a different theme every single month. Because there's limited selections, it is just more difficult to make a box that's gluten-free, nut-free, and vegetarian. We basically have 6 boxes, and they repeat every 6 months. So you can still get this box. It'll come out in another 6 months. You can sign up for 3 months at a time or 6 months at a time. You can re-sign up as long as you want. But it's if you're thinking about this and you're like, I didn't have the box, and what would I do? So one, try to find, if you go to your cheese store, if you go to even just the cheese section at your grocery store, and ask the person behind the counter for a mild blue cheese, and then go check the dessert aisle. If you have a specialty food store around you, even better. And look for this is Fat Toad Caramel out of Vermont. So just see if you can find theirs. It is a lot of places now, but if not, find a dulce de leche. Make a dulce de leche kind of caramel sauce. And think about just making a after dinner dessert is like going to be a little of this blue cheese and a little bit of this dulce de leche. And if you're a coffee drinker, a coffee or a tea, or it's summer, so have an iced coffee. But play around with some of these flavors. Raspberries, fresh raspberries, and a chocolate and one of these would be fantastic. If you have the summer raspberry bushes and you've got like some overripe berries, like mash up those berries and cook them down a little bit and drizzle that over the blue cheese. Oh my gosh, there's just so many options. But think blue cheese, saltiness, chocolate, caramel, tea, all those different flavors, and see what you can come up with. And I'd love for you guys to write in. You can write in at crew@curdbox.com and send us. It's our treat if you send us something that we like. It just makes our day and helps us make more boxes. So until then, Oh, Julie, do you have a favorite before we go? A favorite pairing? A favorite things together?
So far, the cookie, the caramel, and any of the cheeses is awesome.
Yeah, it's great. And if you aren't normally a person who likes gluten-free crackers, definitely give these a try, especially if you have people in your life who need gluten-free, because this is a really great um, uh, cracker biscuit, really, that everybody will love. But also know that this comes in a regular gluten full one as well, just as delicious. So if you don't need to worry about gluten, Elegant Easy is a fine cheese company product, and check out their other flavors as well. But let me tell you where you can find more information for these. I've got them written down so I don't forget. So at Beemster Cheese is where you get the really great goat gouda. And by the way, lots of cow goudas they make as well. They make some really beautiful aged stuff. You can find Beemster at probably 95% of the cheese stores and even cheese sections of grocery stores these days if they have sort of a high end cheese counter. It is well represented across the US. Teahive cheese, you can check that out at Beehive Cheese, which is the name of the company. And then our Moody Blue comes from at Roth Cheese, ROTH. At Fat Toad Farm is where we get this delicious caramel, and they have a maple caramel and a bourbon caramel, and they have like a lot of a vanilla caramel. Oh my gosh, so many options. Pascha Chocolate, check those out, especially if you're getting this box because of nuts or other allergens. That are serious allergies and not just things you're trying to avoid. It's a great company. This is proof that they can make a delicious chocolate without worrying about those things. And that's at Pascha, Pascha Chocolate. And at the Fine Cheese Co. for these delicious raspberry dark chocolate biscuits. You can follow Julie at What Julie Ate, and you can get your Curd Box at curdbox.com or follow us at Curdbox. And this has been great. This is our sixth in the season, our sixth in the series of our um, uh, cheeses. So you should see this one every June and December, I believe, is how this one will pop up. But subscribe and check back in with Julie and I as we eat through our cheese boxes every month. Thanks, everybody, for coming by, and have a great one. We'll talk to you next month. Bye, Julie.
Bye.